I'm getting in for a close-up look. All right, I can't even see everybody. I'm having to forward my screen so that I can get a look at everyone who's joined the call. This is great. How many now, Catherine?
We're at 162 people.
Woohoo!
Wow. 162, that's amazing. Well, welcome everyone. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us for this Zoom tutorial this afternoon, and we really thank Catherine for putting this all together and doing it very quickly for us as well. So my name is Deidre Baker. I'm the Chief Program Operations Officer at Texas CASA, and we really appreciate everything that the network is doing right now to try to adapt to our current situation, this health crisis that we're in. And wow, this is really an unprecedented event, really different, and really presenting us with some challenges and with some opportunities as well, I would say, to try to figure out how do we do our work, how do we keep going in light of all of this. I think this is a time that's having an impact on the children in care in our state as well, and kind of a stressful situation for them to be in. I believe in some areas our removals are already up. So it benefits us to figure out how to continue to do the work of CASA in light of this pandemic, and do all that we can continue to do Texas CASA for you all, and you all for your volunteers, and your volunteers for the children. So I'm going to do just a couple of housekeeping things really quickly. And then I will be turning this over to Margaret and then to Catherine. Housekeeping would just be you all came in on mute so that we don't have that background noise, as we've got, I don't know how many people now that have joined the Zoom tutorial, but probably getting close to 200. So you came in on mute, but Catherine's going to walk us through how to use the Zoom during this, training that she's holding. I wanted to go ahead and mention, of course, Texas CASA is trying to think about the things that we can do to support you in your work, and this seemed a good step because many of the things that you do with your volunteers we can utilize Zoom to do virtually. I think part of our opportunity here is that we're going to figure out how to do our work in a different way. And it could be that we do our work in a different way from here on out, utilizing some of the things that we're going to learn because of the crisis. So in light of that, Steve was able to, and there's Steve on the wave at everybody, Steve. He was able to negotiate with the Zoom folks to try to get Zoom licenses for our network, and that'll be a 2-month license so that it gives us an opportunity to hopefully get through the crisis. We'll certainly take it month by month in what we need to do. But in that amount of time, I also hope it will give you an opportunity to see if this is something that would be beneficial to your network program. And if so, to begin to think about what you want in place in your own program. So Catherine's going to go over a little bit later an invitation that you can expect to see from Zoom this afternoon that will invite you to your license. Because those are ready to go and ready to disperse out to the network. So she's going to go over that. In the meantime, we're also trying to figure out how we can increase our support to the programs, and I wanted to mention a couple of things. One, and it looks like we're at 184 now. That's incredible. is that we know some of the network needs that you all have expressed already. Some of the things you're most concerned about are what will this do to our recruitment? And we have Denise Jackson in our office, who was actually going to be online with us but had a conflict at the last minute. But she has a monthly Zoom call set up for recruiters. And so we will be thinking and brainstorming and working with everyone to figure out how can we continue to recruit volunteers. How can we continue to work with them? If you want to see Denise's schedule, and that's available on our webpage. Margaret, can you look at her email real quick and just see, I think she put in her email what day of the month that was. I think it was a Wednesday, but I don't remember if it was the first or third Wednesday of every month. And if you can just pop in for a second and tell us that when you have it available.
Great, yeah, it's every third Wednesday at 1:15. Denise and Lindsay are leading those Zoom support calls for recruiters.
Wonderful, thank you so much. In addition to that, Celeste Prather, who works with new executive directors, has started Zoom calls for new EDs. We had one last week, and I think we had 19 of our 21 new EDs on the Zoom, and everybody said, yes, we want to have these on a very frequent basis. It's very, very helpful. I saw in the program director listserv yesterday that Sherry Fry in the Denton program suggested a Zoom call for the program directors. They set it up through the listserv, and they held it, I believe, today at 10. So programs are reaching out to each other to set up Zoom calls that they're finding helpful, and just sharing information and ideas of how are you making this work or how are you making that work. We have our volunteer coaching and advocacy team that is trying to work remotely with programs right now rather than coming on site for visits, because we certainly want to continue to offer you support and suggestions and brainstorming for how you're retaining your volunteers through this crisis. So we've got them working with you as well in a remote or virtual way. And though Catherine reminded me this isn't necessarily something to brag about, but we are still trying to figure out how to do the quality assurance visits virtually. That may not be something that you're quite as excited to hear, but we're working with programs in every way we can think of to, just as you are with your volunteers and in making virtual visits with children, to think how can we continue to do this work and support you. So the other thing that's probably been asked about the most is training our volunteers. And Margaret is our in-house, she's our resident expert on training volunteers. And I think she's going to share some ideas with you all about what's available there. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Margaret.
Awesome. Thanks, Deidre. Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret with Texas CASA. I'm the training support person. And I think, as you're all aware, right now, just in the interest of public health, we're totally supporting programs in replacing the typically required minimum 10 hours of face-to-face, in-person pre-service training with 10 hours of live, virtual, video-based training using a platform such as Zoom. And so there's different options available to you for how you can move forward with pre-service training during this time. I know that we need to continue training those new volunteers now as much as ever. And so I'm totally available to y'all to help you troubleshoot how you can move your pre-service training into a virtual space for this period of time. National CASA has been hustling hard to create an option where you're able to use their flex curriculum fully online. And I'm more than happy to walk anyone through that and get you connected with them so that you can explore if that's an option that you might want to use. And we can also talk about just taking what you have been doing in the classroom and transforming that into a virtual training. I also saw a question in the chat about, are folks using platforms like Zoom to get their volunteers sworn in now after they complete training. And I know that some programs are successfully doing that right now. So if you have questions about that, feel free to reach out as well. And just in general, if you want any technical support, if you want to practice using any of the awesome Zoom features that Catherine is going to walk us all through today, I'm more than happy to set up a mock training with you so that you have a chance to kind of roll up your sleeves and practice those to ensure that you're set up for training to continue to be successful during this unusual time. So I'll put my phone number and my email address in the chat, and please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that I can help you with as far as pre-service training or continuing education training during this time.
Great, thank you, Maggie. So hello and welcome to our 199 participants. We're really close to that 200 mark. So just as a way to do some introductions, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. And so hopefully something popped up on your screen or on your phone. I see it did, already getting a ton of responses to figure out who is in the room with us. And so the polling feature is really fun and a great way to keep things interactive and people engaged during this process of having meetings online. So I'm gonna take a moment so some more people can go ahead and fill this out. But I love that people are using the chat feature as well to say hello from all of their different programs. It was neat being able to read through that, and I can see people are already starting to ask questions and share different ideas. So please feel free to continue doing that as we continue throughout the training. Okay. So it looks like about 2/3 of the people have responded to the poll, and I'm seeing there are a few others. So if you don't mind putting other in the chat box, and I know there might be quite a few people on here who are both in the same role as recruiter and trainer. So you can pick whichever option maybe you use more of your time for, but just go ahead and pick your best, what most relates to your role. I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll, and then I can share the results so you all can see. We had 70% of the people participating in our meeting were able to do the poll. So we mostly have advocate advisors or a volunteer supervisor, and then quite a few trainers, recruiters, a good mix actually across the board of staff from the local programs. So thank you all so much again for being here. We really wanted to provide a way to get this Zoom information to you all. So thank you for being a part of our largest Zoom meeting ever before. It's very exciting. And I know we have some, a CFE coordinator, that's one of our, so thanks for adding that in the chat box. I'm seeing some admins, seeing office manager, program assistant, VP of recruitment and training. Again, thank you all so much for being here. That's really great to have all of us. And yes, we did reach over 200. We're at 201, which is fantastic. So again, thank you all. I'm going to go ahead and share PowerPoint. Welcome. We're going to be going through Zoom kind of at an introductory level before. So if you've used Zoom previously, some of this may be familiar, but I'm going to talk about a bunch of different fun settings. So some of it might be new as well. We've already done that welcome and introductions. Deidre and Maggie handled a lot of our announcements for us. And so what we're going to spend the remainder of our time is talking about the different Zoom plans, that basic or free version. And then there's also pro licenses, a paid version. So we'll talk about the differences between those, as well as Texas CASA is providing each CASA program with a pro license, so one of those paid accounts. And I already saw there was a question in the chat as to when that would be available. And so I will send an email through Zoom to all executive directors immediately after this training. And you will get an email that looks something like this. It may be in your spam because it comes directly from Zoom, so just be on the lookout for that later this afternoon. But it'll say hello into your email, and then it'll say Texas CASA has created a Zoom account for you. Please click the button below. So you'll click on activate your Zoom account, and then you'll either be able to create account, or if you already have a free account, that's completely fine. There will be an option to join the Texas CASA one, and that is what is going to upgrade your account. So I did want to make sure to mention that, and I'll probably mention that again at the end. But we do have those Zoom accounts available for each of the different CASA programs. So we're really excited that Steve was able to help us get that deal with Zoom, and that is through that is through June 2nd. So like we said in that email that Deidre sent to all the executive directors yesterday evening, it'll be for about the next little over 2 months or so. Something else that we're going to talk about is the web portal. So how you can schedule meetings from the online browser and how you can invite people as well to your meetings. I'll go over all the different meetings settings, such as the polling feature that we just used to say who is here. And then we can also talk about some resources for you as well, additional trainings that Zoom has to offer. If you're interested in more Zoom licenses, a place that you might go to look at. But I am just going to launch another poll quickly. Go ahead and stop sharing that, to see out of the 4 next things that I'll be talking about with Zoom, kind of what you're most interested in. And so I'm just gonna leave this open until we maybe get about 100 responses or so I can see maybe where I need to spend the most time for our next hour or so together. So I will wait a second as those responses are coming in. And so something that I'll be able to show you later is that I, as the host, can kind of see those responses coming in. So I see the percentage lines moving, but I will show that later during the training. Okay, so most people are not as much interested in the different Zoom plans. Only a couple of people responded. Most people want to know more about the meeting settings and about the web portal, how to schedule and invite people to meetings. Okay, I'm glad I did this because somebody's not seeing a poll. Okay, we can maybe troubleshoot with some people where I know some sound may still not be working and some other different features. So Audrey, one of the other CFE coaches, is on the line with us, and so she'll be responding to chat. So hopefully Audrey is able to help. So I'm gonna go ahead and end that poll and share the results back with you, so you can see most people are wanting to know about those meeting settings. So I'll make sure we spend the bulk of our time doing that and then looking at the Zoom web portal. Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and dive on into the different Zoom plans, and then I'll share this just for a moment or so. Whoops, go ahead and pull up my screen so I can see. And then use spotlight feature. All right, and Audrey's going to interrupt me in case something's not actually working right. But hopefully everyone is seeing the Zoom meeting plans for your business, and then my mouse, I'm able to use kind of this annotated red dot to help you see where my pointer is and what I'm talking about. So just a few minutes talking about the differences between the basic and pro accounts. And then first of all, you only need an account if you are going to be scheduling a meeting. If you are not scheduling a meeting, or you're inviting some CASA volunteers to be a part of a Zoom meeting, if you are a participant, you do not need a Zoom account to be able to join the meeting. It may ask you to download something to be able to join, like it did for our meeting today, but you do not have to have an account. So I just wanted to make that clear. But the basic account does provide a lot of really great features. Just about all of the cool settings that we're going to be talking about today is available through the free account, with the exception of the polling. Polling is only available on the pro account, but everything else is available on basic, which is really neat. The big thing, and I think this is why most people do like having a pro account if at all possible, is that on the free account you have a 40-minute limit if you have a group meeting. And a group meeting would be any Zoom meeting with 3 or more participants. So if you're an advocate supervisor and you're meeting with a CASA volunteer, you could have a free account and that meeting could last as long as you need it to. You would not be kicked out. But say as a CASA supervisor, you're meeting with your advocate and you're also meeting with a CPS caseworker. As soon as that third person joins the meeting, a 40-minute timer will start and you will be kicked out after 40 minutes. The last 10 minutes of that, the timer will actually appear on everyone's screen, so you'll know kind of the countdown of when your time limit is running out. And if you still have more to talk about, you can, in the meeting or when it kicks you out, just go back to the link that you used to enter the meeting in the first place and rejoin the meeting immediately, and your 40 minutes starts back over. So that's one of the workarounds for how to use the free account and still have a meeting longer than 40 minutes. It does interrupt you by ending the meeting, but you're able to jump right back into the meeting by clicking on the link. And then the pro account, this is what we were able to get for each of the CASA programs. And like I said, your EDs will get an email with how to join, and that'll come this afternoon. But this provides meetings for up to 24 hours. And so hopefully that is long enough for each of the meetings that you are hosting, and also up to 100 participants. So you can have meetings for as long as 24 hours and then have up to 100 people on there as well. And so that's what your CASA program will have access to for the next couple of months or so. Audrey, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions before I continue on.
Yes, there was a question about if people already have a paid Zoom account, should they accept the invitation from Texas CASA? And it seems like the answer is yes, go ahead and do that. That means you just get an additional account for your program.
Yeah, and if that is the case, Audrey, can you put my email, cdooley@texascasa.org, put that in the chat box, and then we can work around who from the CASA program will get that free or the paid for by Texas CASA account. But yes, you can still absolutely get one. Okay, so then we're going to move on from this and go into the portal. So when you log into Zoom, this is the page that it'll show. It'll have your profile, a picture might be blank. The only thing I'm really going to say on the profile is you may want to upload a logo for your CASA program, or if it's an individual account for you, you could upload a picture. And then when you turn your camera off during a meeting, this is what everyone will see instead of a black screen with your name on it. So that's kind of a fun feature in the profile. So then under Zoom, once you log in, you'll see under profile, you'll see this thing that says meetings. So you'll go ahead and click on that, and it'll have a list of all of your upcoming meetings that you have scheduled. So you can see right now we have the Zoom for CASA network meeting. It has a little green dot on it saying we are in that meeting. So to schedule a new meeting, you can see this blue button that says schedule a new meeting right next to meetings, and you would click on that. Okay, and then now you can come in and start adding some specifications for the meeting that you are hoping to happen. So then a topic could be a staff meeting. You can name the meeting whatever you want, meeting with Susie Advocate, kind of depending on the nature of your meeting, you can name it as that. You don't have to put a description. This will just be generated in the automatic email, which I'll show you in just a moment. But I usually just leave this blank unless I need to kind of explain a little bit more about the meeting. And then it asks some questions about when this meeting is. Say we know we have a staff meeting on Friday, March 27th. I click that. It's going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning and should last 1 hour. I can go in and change. Let's not have a 2-hour staff meeting, but maybe an hour and a half. That might be the case. And then the time zone, you can adjust this depending on the time zone that you're in. And so those are kind of just the when is the meeting and about how long do we think it's going to be. One thing I'll say is that this duration will not end your meeting after an hour and a half. So say everyone's having a discussion, it went longer than expected, and you're going past the hour and a half. Zoom will not kick you out of the meeting. This is more so just for when you send out this calendar invitation, everyone knows that the meeting should last about an hour and a half. But Zoom is not going to kick you out. And also just because we said it started at 9 a.m., say, I am leading part of the staff meeting with Audrey. We're co-facilitating it. We want to get on the Zoom call at 8:30 or 8:45 just to make sure we have everything ready to go. We can start the meeting before 9 o'clock, after 9 o'clock. This again is just to help with the scheduling aspect of it. So I do want to make sure to make note of that. And then if this is a recurring meeting, say we need to have a staff meeting, since most staff right now are working from home, and this is going to be weekly, you can come in and change. So all I did, first of all, was click recurring meeting. And then the recurrence is how often is it happening, daily, weekly, monthly. If there's not a fixed time, say you just want to send out an email and say, hey, everyone jump on the staff meeting Zoom, then you can also click that. But let's say this is a weekly meeting. It's going to repeat once a week, or it might be every other week. So that just kind of depends on how often it's happening. And then which day is it always occurring on a Friday? Is it always on a Monday? Is it multiple days of the week? This just lets you specify a little bit more about how often the meeting is happening. And then the end date, do you want to end by? You can choose either a specific date, and you can come into the calendar and say we're going to end it on August 31st, or you can choose it'll end after we've had the meeting, say 15 times, and then we can maybe create a new Zoom meeting if it needs to continue or something like that. You may not necessarily need the recurring meeting feature, but that is available if that's going to be something that happens for you, a recurring meeting. Registration is also an option. So when you got a link to attend our meeting today, we did not require registration. So we just included the link and the call-in number for our meeting. So if you do require registration, when you go to copy the invitation, it'll be a link to Zoom where it'll ask your participants to put their name, their email, and their phone number. And then once they submit that information, then they will get a link to, that's when they'll get a link to the Zoom meeting. So you may want to use registration for training, or when you really want to keep track of who's all attending or participating in the meeting. But it does add a layer of complexity. So I just wanted to make note of registration. It's there and available if you want to use it, but you do not have to. For meeting ID, just for the sake of time, and what I do is I always generate a new meeting ID. We can spend maybe some time later, or I'll point out some Zoom resources about this personal meeting room that you have. It's kind of like a cell phone number. It's a meeting ID that is only associated with your account. But I almost always just create a new meeting ID and we'll send that out with my different meetings. Depending on if you want to require a password for the meeting, you can, and then you can come in and change the password to be whatever you want. CASA, it could be CASA, it could be Catherine. You can change your meeting password. Another thing that you have the option of doing is that when you joined our Zoom meeting today, all of the participant videos were on, well, at least for the most part, some of them were on. You also have the option as the participant to say, nope, I don't want my video on. And then for the host, I usually just keep these on. If you do choose off, that means they'll be off when you enter the meeting, but you can always turn it on once you're in the meeting. This is just for start of meeting, kind of specifics of meeting settings. For audio, I would always include both. So this means that people can participate in your meeting by computer, like most of you are today, computer or cell phone through the app, or the telephone option is somebody calling in on the line and using it more like a conference call. I always like to have both options available, even though for today I recommended, if at all possible, to use the link either through an app on your phone or through a laptop or tablet device. So I always leave it on both because you don't necessarily need to be going back and forth. So that makes it easy that it's just both. And so then I'll go ahead and pause and see if there's any questions or comments before going into some of these little more in-depth meeting options. I saw somebody had raised their hand and then I think maybe it lowered, but Audrey, I'm unmuting you. Maybe you're unmuting you.
Yeah, the only questions in the chat had been if there was a limit of hosts for a meeting, which there's not a limit for a number of hosts. And in terms of your account, you are welcome to share that account information within your program, but only one meeting can occur at a time. So if Catherine and I both want to schedule a meeting at 1 o'clock, that's not a possibility. So you'll just need to coordinate within your programs. If you're sharing an account, to make sure you're not trying to overlap one another.
Yeah, and I'll look back to that in just a moment.
There's also some questions coming up about inviting people to the meetings, which Catherine will be getting to.
Yeah, yep, I'm like slowly walking us through. So if you know all of this already, thank you for staying with us. But I know this is new for a lot of people as well. So I just kind of wanted to take the time to explain everything. I know I'm going through it quickly, but we are recording the session again and can share it back out if you have questions. Also, towards the end, I'll share some resources. And Zoom has a ton of great little 1, 2, 3 minute videos about a lot of different features that you can watch, and we'll make sure to share all of that. So the enable before host option is really nice. If you're having a small meeting, maybe a staff meeting or just a meeting with an advocate where you know everyone who's going to be participating in the meeting, and you as the host are fine if other people get on early and start chatting with one another before you're ready to start the meeting. So like I said, for a staff meeting or something internal where you know everyone who's going to be utilizing or participating in the meeting, enable join before host is great. So for today, we did not enable join before host because we knew there would be a lot of people. And so Audrey, myself, Deidre, and Maggie wanted to make sure we were prepared and ready. So we actually had the waiting room feature on. So all of you saw a sign that you were in the waiting room and the host would admit you when we were ready to start the meeting. And so I would definitely recommend that feature for trainings or any larger scale meetings, using that waiting room feature. So again, the enable join before host would be something smaller, or even if you as the host schedule something, maybe you schedule a call for CASA advocate and caseworker to be able to video conference with one another. If you as the advocate supervisor aren't available to be a part of that conversation, or you're running from another meeting, you can enable join before host so that they can go ahead and get started talking. And then if you're able to join later, great. But if not, they can still go ahead and have their meeting. One of the other features is this mute participants upon entry. So again, for larger meetings, such as this one, or trainings that you're having, or if you're doing recruitment for different community members, you may want to go ahead and mute participants upon entry. So if somebody comes in late and they have a dog, or they're outside walking around or talking to someone else and forgetting that they just joined a call, they're muted, and so that doesn't disrupt or distract from the meeting. Talked about that enable waiting room. I'm not going to spend too much time on the only authenticated users can join. That would be only somebody with a Zoom account can join the meeting. I've never used that feature and don't necessarily know why you would ever use it, but that is an option if you only want somebody with a Zoom account to join your meeting. But I think for most of our purposes, you can leave that one blank. And then there's a record the meeting automatically. And so, as many of you know, I'm recording our meeting right now, and I did not click this button. Once in our meeting, there's a way to start the recording. So that way, the 20 minutes of prep work, again, that Audrey, Deidre, Maggie and I took, none of that is recorded. So once we are ready at the beginning of the meeting of letting you all in, that's when we started recording. So you can choose if you want to make sure you absolutely don't forget, you can click on this, but then you can also start recording once you're in the meeting, and I'll show you how to do that feature as well. And then an alternative host might be someone like Audrey, who is helping me manage this meeting that we have going on with you today, who she has the power to mute people and to have access to some different features that most participants don't. So you can include an alternative host if you would like. So after filling in all of this information about setting up your meeting, then you would go ahead and click on Save down here at the bottom. And then the very next screen that you come to is where I know there were a lot of questions about inviting people to the meeting. So right here at the middle of the page, it has the URL that most of you use to join our meeting today. So that is this link. I will also note, I know many of you use Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. If that's something you use, you can click on this button and a calendar invitation would pop up on your screen, and you could save it, and it connects automatically with your calendar, so it's already saved on there. And then from that calendar invitation, you could go ahead and invite other people to join your meeting. Another option is to click this copy the invitation on the right side of the screen, again towards the bottom. So if you click on that, a whole bunch of information pops up. And so you can highlight with your cursor what you want to be copied, or you can click on copy the meeting invitation, and that'll copy it to your clipboard. So most of this, a lot of this information in here isn't necessarily necessary for your participants, and it might be a little confusing looking at all this text. So usually the things that I will pull out and include in my invitations to other people by email or through a calendar invite is the link to join, the meeting ID number, and then you'll see the dial by your location. And so depending on where you live in the world or in our country, Zoom is everywhere, so they have a local phone number. So I've been sharing this Houston phone number with people to call in. So this would be similar to having like a teleconference. Somebody could dial this 346 phone number, and then they'll be asked to enter their meeting ID, and then they would join your meeting similar to like a teleconference. And have that option. And then of course the link, I think, is how most of you joined today. And that's whenever you see the person and you're joined by video conference, and you have access to a lot more of the features that we're about to talk about. So let me get out of this page again. So as soon as you save the meeting, oh, somebody annotated on my screen. So as soon as you save your meeting, you come right to this page, and the copy the invitation is right there on the right side. And then if you just want to send people a link, so you're doing a pre-service training or an ongoing training for advocates, and it really wouldn't work for them to call in for it, you can copy this link and send it to them. So then going back to meetings, one of the things that I think is coming up in the chat is we know we're giving a Zoom account to each of the CASA programs, and multiple people are able to log in and use the account from the CASA program. So not just the executive director, that's just the email that we're going to associate the account with. And so what you would need to do, like Audrey mentioned, no one else could start a meeting from this account while we are currently in a meeting. But you can see, oh, look, that staff meeting that we just saved for Friday morning at 9. Okay, so Friday morning at 9, nobody else could have a meeting. But if I was a staff at a local CASA program, I could log in and see, okay, there's something going on today at 2, but there's nothing scheduled for Thursday. This goes in chronological order. So nothing going on for Thursday. So say I needed to have a meeting with all of my advocates, I could go ahead and schedule a new meeting. And then that way, this is one way that you can coordinate with other people in your staff, is just by looking at what's already been scheduled in this web browser. And so that is definitely what I would recommend, because you'll have one Zoom account that multiple people are using, is by keeping this up to date as much as possible, because you will run into problems if you try to host 2 meetings at the same time. So we do have to be a little flexible with that. Okay, and then again, say I wanted to come look at the settings for staff meeting, or I need to edit something, I can click on staff meeting and it brings me right back to this page where I entered in all this information before. I can edit this meeting and change any of the features. Say I do want to enable join before host, say I do want to record the meeting automatically, I can go in and make those changes. Just press edit on those 2 and then click save. Also, when you record the meeting automatically, it does give you 2 options, but please keep it on the local computer. It will save as an MP4 file onto your desktop. It'll download as soon as you end the Zoom meeting, and then that can be something that you upload to YouTube, or you put on a shared drive that you're using at your CASA network. You can figure out the best way, but please make sure you do on the local computer. And then I can save, and these 2 features have now been updated. So another neat feature of the Pro licensed account is the polling feature. And so here is where you add polls. So you click this add button down here, and then it will let you give a title. So I could do like introductions, and then I asked who is in the room, but then put little quotation marks around room today, and then you could give multiple options. You can let people either choose one response, or if you're asking a question like, what are all of your favorite types of candy? And then you list a bunch, you could do multiple choice and people could put in multiple things. So this could be a good icebreaker to start out your meeting, a different way to keep people engaged as you're talking throughout. But this is what the poll looks like. So we have our options were advocate, and then I'll just put supervisor. And then at the bottom, you can go ahead and save. So for y'all, I just did 1 question at a time. If you wanted, you could ask multiple questions at once. So then that's just right here. You would click on add a question, and you can now see you have that first question, who is in the room, and then now you may ask the second question, what is your favorite candy? Maybe I'm hungry right now. I'm not sure why that's coming up so much. So you could do what is your favorite candy, make it multiple choice, multiple options, and then you could put in, of course, one of the best candies, M&Ms, Snickers, kind of put down whatever different candies that you wanted. And then you can click on save, and then you have that available to go once you start your meeting. So that is how you add polls. Again, just like with everything else, you could come in and edit it. You can add additional polls. So that's what I did for the 2 poll questions that I asked you. I did poll 1, introductions, who's in the room, and then I did a second poll. So clicked on add and gave it the title of like interest or something like that, and then typed in the question of which of the agenda topics you were most interested in learning more about, and then typed in that question and then the different responses. And so this does not allow for free response, so people can't type in their own answers. They have to choose from the options that you give them. So really that polling type feature. So that is how you add polling to your meetings here. Okay, just want to check in with Audrey and see how we're doing before continuing.
The only question I hadn't answered yet was about adding polls in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah, and I can show that. So I'm going to finish with the web browser, and then I'm actually going to share my meeting controls that I see right here with you, and I can show you how you can absolutely add polls during the middle of the meeting. You'll just click towards the bottom of your screen. You can't see it right now because Audrey and I are the hosts of this meeting. You would click on polls and you can click on add more, and it'll actually open up the web browser we were just looking at, and you enter them the exact same way. But you can add them if maybe, you know, people get distracted and are having a conversation, and then you go on a break, and to start back after the break, you want to ask a question related to that. You absolutely could, so that's a great idea. And I will cover that in just a little bit. So I do want to go through, we talked about a lot of the, well, how to schedule a meeting, and then how to copy the invitation and send that out to people. Again, you click on meetings, you can see the list of all of your meetings. Over on this right-hand side, you can see the start and delete button. So this is how I would recommend you start your meetings, is by logging into the account and clicking this start button. I'm not going to mess with any of that because we're all in our meeting right now and I don't want to kick us all out. But this is the best way that I would recommend utilizing that one pro license for each of the CASA programs, is once you have your meeting scheduled, you save it, it's time for your meeting, you log into the account, and then you click this start button over on the right-hand side. Something else that I do want to point out is the settings feature. So some of the neat things that we have been talking about, Zoom doesn't automatically have turned on in your settings. For all of the pro license accounts that Texas CASA will be giving you, I will make sure all of those features are turned on, but for any basic accounts or so the basic free accounts or any accounts that you already have, I would recommend coming into this setting feature and just scrolling through and looking at all of the different features that they have. And then I'm going to point out a few to make sure that you turn on. It doesn't mean you have to use it during every single meeting, but it makes it available to you. So you can just kind of scroll on down. One of them that you'll see is sometimes you can make your meetings password protected. And so you can have this feature on that says embed password and meeting link for one-click join. So then that means if somebody has the link that you sent out and you wanted your password to be 123, that person doesn't actually have to click in the password 123. They would just click the link. So what that does is that another way you can join a Zoom meeting is by entering the meeting ID from the Zoom app or online. And so if somebody accidentally typed in the wrong meeting ID and it was for your meeting and it's password protected, they couldn't join unless they entered the password. So then they wouldn't actually be able to join. That has never happened to me, but I know, especially in the work that we're doing, confidentiality is huge. And so ensuring that we password protect some meetings may absolutely be necessary. So I wanted to make sure and point that out for us. Another feature that will be locked and required is to require encryption for third-party endpoints. So this is just making sure the encryption is all necessary. Our meetings will not be able to be hacked. We can provide some additional information from Zoom about the security of meetings, but we do have that additional feature turned on so we can make sure all of our Zoom meetings are secured. That I like having turned on is this auto saving chat. So all of the great questions and conversations that we're having in the chat, once we end the meeting, I will have a document pulled up on my screen and I can go through and make sure we answered every single person's question. And if there's some great discussion that's happening, it might be nice for you as a trainer or recruiter, advocate, supervisor, whatever your role may be in the type of meeting you're having, to have that chat saved afterwards. So that automatically happens and pops up on your screen as soon as you end the meeting for this auto save chat. One of the other really neat features in Zoom, you can see in the chat, we can also be sharing files. So I typically leave this on, so you may, depending on the type of meeting, if an advocate is meeting with a child, they could share a picture, they could share a document, kind of whatever is needed to be shared. So this is something you may or may not want to have turned on or turned off depending on your meeting. But I know sometimes that makes it easy if in a staff meeting people are referring to a document. We can share the file in the chat. We can share our screen like this. One of the other features that we have turned on is polling. So that feature will be turned on for all the pro accounts, but if you have a pro account that's not through Texas CASA, I would come and turn it on just to make sure you're utilizing that feature. Again, you don't have to use it, but it's available to you. And then there's a lot of features in here, and we time to go through all of them, but I just wanted to point out a couple in case you do get that free account for yourself and you're utilizing it. This nonverbal feedback is how you've been able to raise and lower your hand. You can tell me to go faster, go slower. You can put a little coffee sign that says you need a break. So there's some fun nonverbal feedback that you can be utilizing in the meetings as well. And then the breakout room feature as well, to have some of that small group discussion. I have that turned on. It doesn't mean I have to use it in every meeting. It just means I have that option. So kind of to summarize, there's a lot of settings in here. And so when you have some time going through and reading what they are and kind of what it says, I'm still constantly learning new things about all the different Zoom settings, but I did want to point out a few that I made sure to turn on for my Zoom meetings that are normally turned off that you might want to as well. Oh, virtual backgrounds. Definitely would want to turn that one on, as Maggie's background is the cool lights. And I have a board game store behind me. There's a lot of fun things. Steve, I think, is in a park in New York City. It's fabulous. Yeah, so lots of fun that you can have with the virtual background. So I would turn that one on as well. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a moment. Audrey, was there anything else?
No, not yet. There are some questions. I know you'll be talking about the breakout rooms coming up, so people can learn some more about that. So that's coming their way.
Perfect. Yeah. And then, yes, I know most people, when first looking, there's a chat that says that they thought I was at a library. Not actually. This is a virtual background. I'm in my home upstairs, far away from other people right now. But I love board games. And so I decided to do a board game library for behind me. So that's a little fun. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and share what I see as the host for all of the different kind of features along the bottom. You see many of them on your screen right now. I know in the bottom left-hand corner, you see mute, stop video. You might see participants, and so that's what you can click on to do some of those nonverbal cues that I mentioned earlier. You see the share screen, so that's something else that's great. Anybody who's a part of the Zoom meeting can share their screen. It doesn't just have to be the host. There's the chat feature, which everyone seems proficient, or maybe many of us are, because we have lots of chats, which is fantastic. And then you're able to leave. I do want to, in the top right hand corner, there's a speaker view and then there's a gallery view. And so the speaker view will let you see everything kind of Brady Bunch style with the pictures in different squares on your screen. The speaker view makes one person really big, whoever's talking, and everyone else really small. So I would definitely recommend doing the gallery view so that you can see multiple people and you're not just looking at myself.
And Catherine, there was a question if you were sharing your screen right now. I'm not sure if you were demonstrating anything or if everyone is just on their main page.
No, everyone's just on their main page. Yes, but I will go ahead and share my screen. So it's going to look a little weird because you're going to see what I'm looking at through Zoom, and then yours is going to get tiny again, just like before. So share my screen. So you may be able to see yourself twice, but I'll go ahead and get my annotate that spotlight tool again so you can see my mouse a little bit clearer. But I'm just gonna, so what I was talking about with the speaker view is up in this top right hand corner. So the speaker view is when one person, hello Audrey, is really large and then everyone else is up top. My favorite, and I use this for all my meetings, is gallery view, so I can see as many people as possible, and then we can scroll through and look at everybody and take a moment. So you are officially all a part of our recording. We see everybody on that. This is so fun. And then we have quite a few people with their videos off. So Justin did a great job of, he's uploaded a picture. So since his video's off, we can still see that that's him. Yeah, so many fun things. Okay, I'll come back to the first page and then just kind of walk us through from left to right on the bottom, kind of this panel of all these different fun features that you have as the host. And so the first is also what participants have as well. And so maybe should have done this one at the beginning, but you see this up arrow and there's one right here that says test speaker and microphone. So if you're having issues, you can go ahead and click that. It'll test your speakers first and do a little ring sound and ask if you hear that yes or no. If you click either one of them, the next thing it'll ask you to say something and then stop talking for a moment and it'll repeat it back to you and ask if you can hear it to test if your microphone is working. And hopefully both of those are, but then that lets you know maybe something's not working. If you happen to have multiple microphones plugged into your computer, I don't, I'm just using the audio and video that are kind of inside my laptop. I just do the whatever the default that it comes up with, and that has always worked for me. And this is also how you can mute yourself. So if you see the red line across this mute, then that means you are muted, and if you don't see it, then you're not muted. So then the same with the stop video. So I can make my video go away and you see that picture, you see this red line going over it to say your video really is off. Which I would definitely recommend checking if you need to step away or if you bring your phone or laptop device with you. And then again with this up arrow, this is how you might see your video settings or how you can change your virtual background. One thing, if you're trying to figure out the virtual background, it only works if you have an account. It doesn't matter if it's a free account or a paid account, but if you just click the link to join, I'm pretty sure you won't be able to use the virtual background feature. You do need an account for that, but even the free account, you can use it. So then I'm gonna click on video settings, and then it automatically goes to video on the left-hand side. Again, I'm not gonna go into what all of these do. I haven't even really spent that much time looking at it, but the main thing is this. Say you join a meeting and your video's off, you can see kind of a preview like, oh, does my hair look good? I feel good about the angle of my camera. I need to move it up or down. This is a way that you can come and check all of that before actually turning your video on. Another fun thing that we taught Deidre right before we started this meeting is there's a feature right here that says touch up my appearance. I have no idea what it does, but I clicked it because it can't hurt. So you can use that as well for you. And then I'll go ahead and X out of that and click on the choose a virtual background. So this is how I'm doing the fun, at least I think it's fun, board game store. You could also be hanging out in some grass or on the moon. You can upload your own images as well. So I don't know if I actually said, I'm one of our collaborative family engagement coaches, but here is our CFE team at conference with our booth. So you can upload your own images or images from online. Mine had a few, I guess these two, the grass and the moon, already on here. I am super jealous of Maggie's kind of lights that were moving, but you can have some fun with the virtual background. So that's what these two do on the bottom. The next thing that I haven't typically used, but say you start a meeting and you want to invite somebody either by email or you can invite somebody by contact, you can copy the URL. And so that's the link to join the meeting. So say I was getting a text message from one of the local programs saying, Catherine, I know you're doing your meeting. I can't find the link. So I could come over here to this invite button. That's what I clicked. And then I can copy the invitation to my clipboard. Or if I don't want to copy that big long invitation, I can just copy the URL. So that's probably what I would use it for the most. And so that's inviting people once you have already started the meeting, you have that ability as well. So then this feature, the manage participant, is absolutely crucial for you as a host when you're trying to manage more than just a couple of people. If you're usually just having a conversation with one person, most of the time you're both going to be unmuted and just kind of have that dialogue back and forth. But with 202 people, definitely want to make sure we can manage that. So you can see, I can go in and unmute. So now Allison, I think from San Antonio, is unmuted for a moment, and then go back and mute her as well. So if I see Esmer on my screen from Hidalgo. If I saw her like trying to talk or say something and she was muted because someone else was talking, I could go in and unmute her so that she could say what she has to say and then go back and mute. So that's one of the neat things that you're able to do as host. I can see, yay, somebody clapped and somebody else liked it and said thumbs up. So one of the other things is that your participants, I have that nonverbal communication on. And so if you yourself clicked on the participants, you would see like raise hand feature and some of these other fun ones. So you can see kind of what people are telling you nonverbally as well. I could unmute everyone. That may be a little chaotic, but it might be what we need depending on what we're trying to accomplish with the meeting, or say people are joining and I just need to mute everyone. You can also mute all. You can click more and there's a ton of fun options. That waiting room that originally had everyone in, as soon as we admitted everyone into the waiting room, I clicked this more feature to the right side of my screen. And again, I'm on manage participants. That's in the top right hand when it pops up, which is nice. And then more, and then there are some other features. And so this is put attendee in waiting room on entry. So if I wanted to make sure whoever joined my meeting was actually supposed to be in here, I could have the waiting room feature on and choose to admit them. Or for a training, once we started, it's fine if people are coming in late. We really just didn't want anyone to come in early. You can kind of turn this on and off depending on your need. You could play a chime for enter and exit. I don't like the chime. I think it's distracting. But if you wanted to make sure everyone knew before someone was leaving or entering a meeting, you could absolutely have that feature turned on. So I would recommend looking at these. Again, won't go over necessarily all of them, just want to help you feel a little more familiar about what these features are. And so then I know one of the ones we were getting questions about is this polling feature. So if you can see my red cursor is hovering over polls. So I will click on that. And I told y'all how I had 2 polls. So at the top, I can see it's polling 2. So that's my second question. And if I click on this down arrow, that's how I could filter through the different questions that I had pre-created. So I could come back to this first question and look at it. And see what the responses were. right here where it says share results, if I had not launched this poll already, I could click launch poll, and that's when you see the poll come up for you. And then when you close the poll, this is the screen that you see, and you can click on share results. And then the same, I can go back and forth between my polls. If I needed to ask them at a different order than I originally thought, you can go and ask your questions in any order. And then you can relaunch the polling, you can share the results, just kind of whatever you need to do for your meeting. So yes, and then if I did, so right now I clicked on edit and I'm sharing my screen. So then this is where it does add a poll. So it takes you to the Zoom website so you can add in the additional information. And so I could do that right here. Favorite color, yellow, oh goodness, yellow, red, blue, green. Those are some pretty good options. And then save it. And then I can get rid of this. And then now I can come to poll 3. Favorite color, you see how it says launch poll at the bottom. I'm going to launch it and see if y'all click the correct answer for favorite color. I know I only provided 4 options, but y'all are not picking the correct answer. Okay. Not surprising, most people are putting blue. Blue has a lot of love. The least, it's so sad. My favorite color got the least amount of votes. People are still voting. We're at almost 70%. Oh, purple. Oh, I love purple too. Yeah, purple is my second favorite color. I should have included that one. So we're close to 70%. So I'm going to, on my screen, you can see end polling. And then, oh, y'all are watching my screen. So you kind of saw as the votes came in, yellow is my favorite color. And so then I can share results with everybody. And so that's how your participants are able to see the polls. And if you want them to see the results of the poll, or if you want to keep that confidential, you don't have to share, but you have that option. Blue by far won, and then red or green, and then red, and then yellow. But 15 people, so yay, those 15 people who answered correctly. And then I can stop sharing the results of poll. So that's how the polling feature works, the polling feature. And then the share screen. So right now, if I click on share, I'm sharing my screen so that you can see my Zoom platform. But earlier, I was just sharing the Google Chrome browser when I was walking you through everything that I was doing on the website. So you can choose if you want to share your entire screen. So if you have folders open and you're clicking new documents, your participants would see that as well. But if I share this web browser and then I want y'all to see my PowerPoint, I would have to reshare. So it just kind of depends on what you're trying to do. So a lot of times I just do share my screen, and that way you can see everything that I'm looking at as well, so I can make sure that it's working right. You do not have to use Chrome. That's just kind of my default browser. The Zoom sharing of the screen works with any internet browser, works with any application. I know Deidre mentioned some QA being done by Zoom. So we are sharing Optima on Zoom with our QA specialists. And then somebody annotated, you can see there's kind of this green line over here. So you can annotate. So I could draw, draw lines, but I really just want to draw squiggly. So I can draw a big old heart. So there's lots of fun things that you can do and annotate to work collaboratively with other people in the sharing of the screen. I can also clear at the top, I can clear all my drawings. And then another, let's get out, I don't want to annotate. If I click on share, another one of those features is the whiteboard. And this one is really neat if you just kind of want a blank screen to be able to share and collaborate and have notes on. I'm just drawing gibberish, but that could look like whatever you wanted it to. You could do a stamp, some hearts. Another cool thing is that your participants can annotate on your screen as well. So right now I have that feature on. So if you wanted to annotate on my screen, you would be able to. So yes, yep, CASA. One of the neat, I love it. I'm not doing any of this. This is all y'all drawing CASA, the blue, the brown squiggly, the stars. So some of this is making sense. Hey, see, it's a little bit of madness right now, but I love it. And so I could show more, and I can show the names of the annotators. And so now I can see who's doing which annotation line kind of as it goes. But yeah, oh, this is so pretty. I just want to watch and see what happens, but okay, I will hide the names of the annotators, and I am going to stop sharing that whiteboard, but you can see how you can have that collaboration with one another, and just be silly, or like more like doing work as well with one another. You can also share Word documents. So this is what we're going to talk about in a moment with the Zoom resources, but say we're in a staff meeting and I just wanted to take notes. So I could take notes and everyone could be looking at my screen as well. So we kind of have this shared document that we're all working on. So you can really choose and share what makes most sense depending on the meeting that you're having. If it's a training, you could share a case file that you want maybe the group to read before they do an activity on it. You're sharing your PowerPoint as you're presenting. If you're taking notes, yep, you see y'all are annotating on my screen. Again, like you can have that collaboration. You can turn that feature off, but it's just so fun. So I won't disable participants' annotation. But I will go ahead and stop sharing that Word document and come back to sharing my screen so you can be looking at what I'm looking at as well. But this share feature is really neat and has a lot of fun things. The advanced feature, you can share a portion of your screen if that makes sense for you. You can share your computer sound only. So this is really neat if you want to be playing music, maybe at the start of your meeting. You can share your computer sound and play music through YouTube or play music through Spotify or whichever device that you play music on your computer, and all of your participants hear that as if it were coming from their computer. It is really neat. And really fun. I may demonstrate that towards the end of our meeting. So that's a lot of information on share. Right now I have that only one participant can share at a time. That's a feature that I have. So just want to make sure, okay, I'm still sharing my screen. Only one participant can share at a time, just because I know a lot of us are only using one monitor, but if you were using multiple monitors and you needed 2 people to share, that could be a feature that you used where multiple participants can share simultaneously. I haven't really had a need for that, but that is an option. And then the chat feature, which a lot of you are using already. So if you click on that, then you have the Zoom group chat in the bottom right-hand corner. And so you can choose if you're sending a chat to everyone or if you needed to send a chat to a specific person. I could come in here and say like, oh, I really need to message Amanda. Maybe, you know, we need to chat about something while a different conversation is being had. We're able to do that in the chat box. So that's really neat. You can also share files. So let me turn my annotate spotlight back on so you can see the red dot, but this share file right here, you're able to share. So you can click on file and you have a browser come up. And so I could go to my desktop and say, I really want to share the CFE manual with everyone. We're talking about some things about collaborative family engagement, and that could be helpful. So I click open, and then it will send in the chat box. And then the CFE manual, what you'll do is you'll either click or double click on it, and it'll come up in a browser like any other download. So this is our CFE manual, so it's a little bit of a bigger file, so it's taking just a few moments to send, but you can see that you can send files back and forth through the chat as well. Yep, CFE, and then I get a little message, CFE manual sent successfully, so you can see that. And then I can allow, as the host, you can choose if you want everyone to be able to chat with everyone. If I wanted no one to be using this chat feature, I could click that. If I want you to only be allowed to chat with me, I could make that feature available as well. Or I can make it to where everyone is just chatting publicly. We can't do any of the private chat. You can choose that option in here as well. So then this is the recording feature. So you see it has a little pause sign and a little stop. So I'm not going to mess with it since we're recording right now. But as we started and brought all of you in, instead of pause, this was a play. And so I just clicked on play, and you can see in the top left of my screen that it says recording. And so say I needed to pause, have a conversation, and start the recording again, you can absolutely do that. If you wanted multiple recordings, so like different MP4 files, you could stop the recording and then restart it, and that would be a new MP4 file for you. So I know there were some questions about breakout rooms, so I wanted to make sure to talk about that. So here's the breakout room button. So I click on it, and then something will pop up that says create breakout rooms. So right now we have 180 people on, and we want to split into, say we did 30 rooms. So 130 people in 30 rooms would be about 6 participants per room. I can manually assign each person into a breakout room, or I can automatically do it. And what a breakout room is it's just a smaller group basically having their own meeting within a meeting, kind of like Inception. So if you were doing a training and you wanted small groups to be working on a case study together, like in our pre-service training, then you might want to use the breakout room feature. So we have 180 participants into 30 rooms. Oh, and then the breakout room is right here at the bottom. So that's all I've done so far, is I've just clicked on that. I clicked 30 rooms. The most you could do is 50 rooms. Yeah, that's just the most you can do. But even with 180 people, that's only 3 to 4 per room. So that just makes it a little bit more manageable to have some conversations. And then I'm going to automatically do it. And then I click create rooms. So then what comes up is it has randomly assigned each person into 30 different breakout rooms. So we can see that Deanna is in breakout room number 2. Well, say I wanted Deanna to be in breakout room number 1. I can either move her to breakout room 1, or I could exchange her. Say I wanted Nick from breakout room 1 to be in breakout room 2. I could exchange her with Nick, and they've just swapped. So now Nick is in breakout room 2 and Deanna is in breakout room 1. So even though I had it randomly assign each person to a breakout room, I am still able to go in and move people to different breakout rooms. So say like, oh no, I definitely don't want Will and Audrey to be talking to one another. They'll just get distracted. They won't be able to focus. I can move Will to breakout room, say 16. And so now he won't get distracted because him and Audrey are in the same breakout room. So you can do it randomly. You can assign each person to a room, just kind of whatever makes sense for you. And then you have some options down here. So say I'm ready to send everybody to a breakout room. Yes, just like a regular class, I love it. You can click on open all rooms, but say I wanna look at my options and what's gonna happen first. I can click on this options button right here, and then what it says is it'll move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. So as soon as I click on open all rooms, it will automatically move you into your room. And then another options, it says allow participants to return to the main session at any time. So if you have that clicked, a person in a breakout room could leave the breakout room and come back to the main session. So this could be like you as the facilitator of a training, you split people up into their breakout rooms and tell them, if you have a question, I'll be here in the main room and you can come back and chat with me. So you can click that. You can have the breakout rooms automatically close after a certain number of minutes, or you can have this countdown after closing the breakout rooms. So as soon as I open all the rooms, this kind of breakout rooms feature stays up, and I'm able to close the rooms and I'm able to broadcast a message to everybody. So I could broadcast a message and say like 5 more minutes, like kind of start wrapping up your discussion depending how long you've been in the breakout room. And as soon as I close the breakout room, it won't automatically have you come back to this main room. Right now it would give you 30 seconds to wrap up your small breakout room conversations before it forced you to come back to this main room. And you could adjust that to anywhere from 10 seconds to up to 2 minutes, just depending on what each of your rooms needed. So all of these different options that you're allowing people to kind of, you have a lot of variability with it. I could recreate, so say like I wanted to recreate, I didn't like the way this randomly did it the first time, I want to recreate into, instead of my 30 rooms, 45 rooms, oh, that did 14 rooms, 45, I could recreate all rooms and it randomly just does it again. So that's one way you could constantly be mixing up the conversations for if the small groups, or if you wanted them to stay the same, they'll stay the same in here as well. Even if you close the breakout room, come back, you all chat and kind of regroup together and you click on breakout rooms to send everyone back. It will stay in the same breakout rooms, but here's how you can recreate new ones if you want people to be able to talk to different people, or you can keep them in the same. Oh goodness, time has gone by so fast. It is already 3:20. I do want to try and let you experience what it's like to be in a breakout room. So we're going to try it. So my options, I'm gonna have you move there automatically. I'll let you, nope, I don't want to let you return to the main session at any time, and your countdown marker will be at 15 seconds. So I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms for probably about 30 seconds or so you can see what it's like. You have the chat feature, you're able to talk with one another. You as the host, I can pop into different breakout rooms and say hello. I can, yeah, exactly, go through the different rooms, but we're gonna try it and see how it works with 176 of us. So I'm gonna go ahead and open all of our rooms. I'll see y'all in just a moment. Hello, I saw somebody asked for help, so I joined your breakout room, which is pretty fun. Oh, you're still all muted. I'm gonna go ahead and—
I was testing it out.
Oh, you were testing it, okay. I'm gonna even go back and call everybody back. But yeah, we can talk about that as a cool feature. Hello, welcome back. I think we have just about everybody back from our breakout rooms. So you could see, you went into them, somebody saw a feature, how you can ask, I know not enough time. I'm glad you thought it was cool. This is just a way to practice and let you see it. And we're already coming close to that 3:30 time mark, so I didn't want to spend too much time in the breakout rooms. But somebody saw a feature that you can ask for help, and I got notified of that as the host. So I did join one of the breakout rooms to say hello, and then I came back to this main room. One of the features that I didn't do is I could broadcast a message to all. It shows up for only 3 or 4 seconds or so, so not for too long, but you could, if you had a question you wanted them to talk about, or you wanted to say 5 more minutes, you could use that feature as well. And then let me open up this chat again, and then I can start sharing my screen with everybody. I'm seeing there's some questions, which is great. So share my screen so I can see the questions. Zoom won't penalize if we go over. Yes, you're right, Zoom won't penalize. So if you would like to stay on and continue learning more and playing more, I'm happy to stay on with y'all. That is an excellent point. I'm glad you were listening to that.
It won't, if I can add, it won't penalize you, but if you are sharing an account and someone has a meeting scheduled right after you, that will cause a problem. So you would just need to end your meeting before the next one starts.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's a great point, Audrey, right? If you had back-to-back meetings, I scheduled a meeting today from 2 to 3:30, but if I'm sharing this account at my CASA program, someone else saw that I would be done at 3:30 and scheduled something at 3:30, then that's where you at your CASA office may need to figure out if you're going to give a little lee room or if you're going to stick strictly to your time frames that you put into that web browser. Absolutely. There's a question, does it automatically unmute when you enter the breakout room? Audrey, maybe I'll let you answer. I'm not sure since I didn't go to the breakout room.
I don't believe that it does. You need to unmute yourself. And one thing to note is if you've got people participating by phone, it cues them verbally that you're moving into a breakout room, but they obviously can't see anything that's happening, and it'll just tell them you're moving to the breakout room or you're about to be moved back.
Yes. And then another thing that you can do as host, I see that I'm sharing my screen. Over here on the right-hand side, I could click this unmute all. So if you are one of our collaborative family engagement sites and have joined one of our CFE community calls, we use the breakout room feature. And so this is what I've done before with a smaller group of people. I've unmuted everybody and then immediately sent everyone to their breakout room. So then everybody's unmuted. So that's something that you can do as the host if you're sending people into that breakout room. I did see another comment about people using the free version and Zoom allowing you to extend past the 45 minutes. I've heard that they're doing that, which is fantastic, but I've heard it's only been like the first couple of times before it starts limiting you. So just a word of caution on that. I'm not sure how much longer they will keep allowing that, but I think they're very aware of how much increased use everyone is using with Zoom, not being able to be in contact with people as much right now. So that's nice that they're doing it. I just don't know how long it's going to last and if it's a one-time only thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen for right now so you're not looking at my meeting polls, but I am going to open up some resources that will be shared in the chat box by Audrey and also emailed out afterwards for everybody. So I'm going to go back to the web browser. And we're on Zoom. So I'm going to X out of that and come to the very front. So one of the first resources that we wanted to tell you about is just the Texas CASA website. We do have an updates and resources regarding COVID-19. So any kind of up-to-date news that you want to know about what's going on with the CASA network. I know there was an update last night about IDing in the Identigo Center. So there's tons of information on our Texas CASA web page. And one of those updates is a link to a National CASA Flex Learning Support application. So National CASA is giving local programs funds for things such as video conferencing services. So if your CASA program wants to request funds for additional licenses, this might be a resource that you want to look into about how to get money for that. And so again, all of these links will be shared with you. I know Audrey, I think, is sharing in the chat box. And then especially this National CASA form is also on our Texas CASA COVID-19 updates. And then something else I wanted to share is that TechSoup does have, well, TechSoup is a nonprofit organization that provides a ton of technology and software services to nonprofits at a reduced price. And so they have some discounts on their Zoom accounts right now. The one thing I'll add is that they lock you into a 1-year deal for these Zoom accounts. So that's just kind of a word of caution. If that's something your CASA program wants to be doing and looking at for the next year, I'd recommend looking at this. If you are looking at maybe 1 to 9 of the pro licenses, look at this, the first option with an admin fee of $65. If you would need over 9 licenses, I would look at this second option. But just some possibilities if maybe you're looking at getting additional Zoom licenses, they are at a reduced price on the website. Something else that I want to share, a lot of these are Zoom links. So Zoom has a meeting and webinar best practices and resources page. And so this is fantastic. So just 2 of the links that I kind of want to point out. They have a webinar recording about how to improve your virtual presentation skills. So if you're doing some recruitment online, or you're doing trainings, or even just meeting with advocates, children, or families, you may want to check that out. One of the other resources that they have is the Zoom Meetings Trainings Reference Guide. And so it's 7 pages, and it goes over everything from scheduling a meeting, customizing those meeting options, how to invite people, schedule options. There's a lot of really great content in this reference guide. Something else is an online events best practices. So this is just a PDF rather than a webinar of some how to have online best practices. So I wanted to make sure to share that regardless of if you're using Zoom or Facebook Live or whatever that looks like for your recruitment or training. You may want to look at that resource. Zoom also has a lot of trainings, and so I wanted to point out 3 of them. The first is a 30-minute webinar about getting started with Zoom meetings. If I went maybe a little too fast, or you think it might be nice to have another like intro-level Zoom webinar, how do I use Zoom? I'd recommend watching this Getting Started with Zoom Meetings. The second one is an hour-long Zoom meeting, and it's for intermediate users looking more at the breakout rooms, the polling features, some more of those little higher feature meetings that you have available. And then another one that they have that's new is they have Zoom meetings for education, students and educators. I have not watched this one yet, but it says it's a 45-minute one about doing virtual teaching and learning in the Zoom classroom, which is a Zoom meeting that we're in right now. So if you are thinking about utilizing Zoom for different trainings, then I might give this one a watch as well. Zoom also has a ton of like 2, 3, 4-minute little videos, how to join a meeting, how to schedule a meeting. So if you're thinking about utilizing this with advocates or even children and families, you might send them this join a meeting. I know in the invitation we sent you all on Monday about this meeting, we included a link to join a test meeting so you could test and see what everything would look like beforehand. So that's something available to you. There's also just the Zoom Help Center. You can search any topic that you want to know more about in Zoom. You can search it, and similar to a library, it'll come up with some of the most popular sites. So if you want to know more about breakout rooms, you can enter that into this search at the Zoom Help Center, and it'll talk about managing breakout rooms, getting started with them, how do you participate in them, pre-assigning participants to breakout rooms, kind of a lot of the features we talked about quickly, but you may not remember and want to know more about, you can click on this. And then the other thing I'll say is that similar to Texas CASA, a lot of sites, including Zoom, also has a support page about COVID-19 right now. And so some resources that they have is effective remote working. So I know this is new for a lot of us. So you may want to look at some of these resources, and then educating over Zoom. So kind of that training piece as well. There's some resources here. And then hosting virtual events, what that might look like as well. So I know I went over some of those resources really quickly, and that's because we have a list of all of them explaining what they are and including them in the chat box for you. They'll be emailed out. So I really just wanted to make sure we covered them. And oh gosh, I've already gone over my time. It's 3:34. So thank you if you have stayed on with us. Audrey and I can stay back and answer any other questions that you have. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if you're an executive director at a CASA program, as soon as I'm able to close out this meeting, I'm going to go directly into Zoom and send you an email from Zoom about how to get that account that we've promised you, which is really exciting. Those are all ready to go. I just need to send out the email, and then I'm happy to troubleshoot with you as you're trying to figure out how you're going to make this Zoom account work in the times that we're in right now. I'd be happy to offer any assistance that I can. I may point you to some Zoom resources, but then of course, as it relates to CASA, how might recruiters, how might trainers, how might advocate supervisors, programs, how could we have a staff meeting on this once a week or every day, depending on what will best meet the needs of your organization. Happy to talk through all of that, along with my colleagues, Denise, who wasn't able to be on here, but I know she's doing some work with recruiters. Celeste has been offering some great resources over Zoom to the executive directors. Maggie has been working with the trainers as well. And then Lisa Briggs, I know, is working with a lot of advocate supervisors. And so all of that will continue. So please feel free to reach out to any of us. I'm going to go ahead and put my email.
And I've also sent in the chat a link for a SurveyMonkey evaluation. If before you leave the call, if you're able to at least click on that and let us know what you thought of this training, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I went ahead and copied and pasted it again. It just asked 3 questions if this was helpful to you. And then at the bottom, it's asking what additional resources might be helpful for you in your program at this time, related to Zoom, not related to Zoom, just in general at Texas CASA, what could we be doing? So please feel free to click on that SurveyMonkey link and give us that feedback. We would greatly appreciate it.